We hear about wars every day, names of countries, updates, numbers, and after a while it starts to feel distant, like something happening somewhere else, just someone else, something you read and move on from. But when you slow it down and actually look at it, it changes because it stops being just information and it starts becoming real. Not a headline, not a statistic, but a person. Someone who had a life before all of this, a routine they were used to, a place they called home, people they loved, people who knew them before any of this began. Someone who didn't grow up imagining this would be their reality, who probably had plans, expectations, a completely different direction in mind. But life doesn't always follow what we expect. And now, they're here, standing in a place that feels unfamiliar, surrounded by things that were never meant to look like this, doing something they might not have chosen, but still, it's their duty. And sometimes, duty doesn't ask how you feel, it doesn't wait for you to be ready. And then you start noticing what's around him. The walls aren't whole anymore, the ground isn't the same, everything feels interrupted because these aren't just broken structures. They were homes, places where people felt safe, where conversations happened, where life was normal. And now they exist like this, not because they were meant to end this way, but because something bigger passed through them. Meanwhile, we're here, living our lives, following our routines, waking up, going through the day, planning tomorrow, safe, comfortable, far enough away that it doesn't interrupt us. And it's not wrong, but it creates distance because when something doesn't touch us directly, it's easy not to feel the weight of it. But for someone like him, there is no distance, no pause, no separation from it. This is his reality. Every step he takes, every moment he stands still, it's all happening here. A life shaped by something bigger than choice, something he didn't fully choose, but still has to carry. And this story doesn't end here. This is part one of a visual series, a reflection on a war still unfolding. And maybe that's the hardest part to understand. Not the noise, not the destruction, but the silence that follows it. Because after everything happens, life doesn't just stop, it changes. Places don't disappear completely, they remain, just not the same. Walls still stand, but they don't protect the way they used to. Streets still exist, but they don't lead to the same places anymore. And for the people who lived here, nothing feels familiar, even if everything is still right in front of them. Because war doesn't only take what you can see, it takes what you felt, the sense of safety, the normal days, the versions of life that once made sense. And sometimes it takes things that don't come back, not because they were weak, not because they weren't strong enough, but because some things aren't meant to be carried forever. And then there are the ones who remain, the ones who keep moving, who keep showing up, even when everything around them has changed. Not because it's easy, but because stopping isn't an option. Because when you're placed in something like this, you don't always get to choose how you feel. You only choose what you do next. And maybe that's what this really is. Not just a drawing of a soldier, but a moment that represents thousands of others happening at the same time, in places we don't really see, in stories we don't fully hear, and lives we will never completely understand. Because the truth is, we will never feel this the way they do. We can try to imagine it, we can try to understand it, but there's always a distance. And maybe that distance is what allows us to keep living the way we do. And this is only one piece of that story.